Hello, welcome to video number 5 in the ABCs of Ethics Bowl videos. I'm Dr. Richard Green. So number 5 is what to expect at the National Bowl, right? So number 4 was what to expect at the regional competition. And there's going to be a lot of similarities, but if your team is fortunate enough to be invited to the national competition, here are some things that I think will be useful for you to know. Okay, so to begin with, the national competitions, much like the regional competition, some salient differences. It occurs over 2 days, right? So the regional competition happens all day, normally on a Saturday. The national competition begins Saturday evening, where we have 2 rounds, just to sort of shorten the day on Sunday, but then goes all day Sunday as well, where we have another 2 rounds that are elimination rounds, plus a quarters, a semis, and a finals. Another important difference is that the national competition involves 17 cases now, right? So the regional competition was 15 cases, but given that we have 7 rounds where we need to use at least 14, and we want to have more than one emergency question, we need to do 17 for nationals. So that's a recent addition. It used to be 15, but then we would do 3 qualifying rounds and quarters, semis, finals. But again, like I said in the last video, the goal is to get as many students involved as possible. Okay, so in a normal year, there are 36 teams invited to the national competition. Some years back, this was 40, then it was dropped to 32. We're at 36. This is always subject to change, but currently 36 teams, and they're from the 12 regions, right? So we have the 11 sort of standard regions plus the 2-year bowl. The winner of that competition gets an invitation also, and we consider that to be a region as well. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, each team will participate in 4 qualifying round matches, and the format of these is identical to the format of the regional matches that I described in the previous video, right? So if you're one of those regions that do things a little bit differently, then it might not be exactly the same, but you know, as far as it's described in the video, that's also what we do at nationals, right? So each team will be involved in at least 4 rounds, 2 cases, per round. So at least 8 cases will come up, and the format and the timing and all that's essentially how I described in the previous video. Okay, so after 4 rounds, we rank the teams, and we do that again based on win-loss tie record, right? All wins are better than ties. All ties are better than losses. So any team with 3 victories will be better than teams with 2 victories, even if you have 3 victories and a loss, and the team with 2 victories has 2 victories and 2 ties, which sort of seems like it might add up to the same thing. Wins are worth more than ties. Ties are worth more than losses. In most years, there's several teams that are 4-0 that advance, but a number of 3-1 teams also advance, right? Some 3-1 teams do, and some by 3-1, I mean 3 wins and a tie. Some 3 wins and a tie teams don't advance. So what's the difference? Well, the first tiebreaker is point differential, right? Who won their matches by a greater margin, or who outscored the teams they were competing against throughout the day by a greater margin. So, there's always one team that's 3-1, but has a differential of 30 points, which is amazing. And they sail through, and then there's a whole bunch of people, sort of lumped around 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points. And, that could be the dividing line. Might be a little higher, might be a little lower. Really varies from year to year. But we will advance 8 teams to the quarterfinals, and it will be based on win-loss record, followed by point differential, followed by the other tiebreakers. And so this, takes you to a single elimination round competition, right? If you lose in the quarterfinals, you're done. If you win, you go to the semis. If you lose in the semifinals, you're done. But if you win there, you go to the finals. So we go from 8 down to 4 down to 2. And then, of course, we declare a champion. If there's a tie in the last round, it's a true tie, total points and everything, then we have co-champions. It hasn't happened at the national competition, but it has happened at others plenty. Worth noting, just as you're doing your preparations, the judges tend to have more diverse professional backgrounds at the national competition. Diversity is always a goal, and not just in terms of backgrounds. And some regions are really great at having a very diverse group of judges, and others are working to do better. And at the national competition, we strive for diversity, and I think we do good, can do better, but good as we go. But here I'm talking about diversity of professional backgrounds. So what I mean by that is, at a lot of the regional competitions, not all of them, but many, the overwhelming majority, most of the judges are academics, right? These are hosted by people at universities, and they get their colleagues, their grad students and so forth, to come and serve as judges. So you see an awful lot of philosophers, right? Especially in those places where the organizers of the bowl are philosophers, such as myself. Not entirely philosophers, you get people from other departments, and everybody manages to get some people from the community as well. At the national competition, right? The national competition's held at a conference where the people attending the conference might be professional philosophers, but they might be in any number of other professions, right? It's an ethics conference. So all they have in common is an interest in ethics, which for our purposes is great. So, you might get doctors or lawyers, judges, right? People responsible for, ethics compliance at their corporation and so forth, right? In addition to, the academics you'll see. So, this creates an opportunity for students, to try out their arguments on people who aren't professional philosophers, but it also comes with a sort of responsibility, right? You can't rely to the same extent on the philosophical background information. So if you've been studying ethics and you really know an awful lot about, John Stuart Mill or Rawls, John Rawls or someone like that, if you can't sort of build an explanation of those views into your case that the educated non-philosopher can latch onto, you might be in a little bit of trouble. So you want to know, going into the national competition, that the judges are going to be very smart, they're going to be very well trained, but they're not necessarily ethical theorists. So, don't assume that they are. Okay, finally, in addition to the competition, at the national competition, there's what's called the Bob Ladenson Spirit of the Ethics Bowl Award, right? Bob Ladenson's the creator of the Ethics Bowl. And there's an award that is given to a team each year, and it's the team that best exemplifies the spirit of the Ethics Bowl, right? This idea that we're in this, rational, collegial, friendly, truth-finding activity. We're here to promote civil discourse, right? That's a big part of what the Ethics Bowl is sort of modeling the kinds of ethical conversations that we think, would be best if we had in our society, as opposed to the sort of vitriolic conversations that you might find on social media or, sitting around a table in a pub or some such. So the Ladenson Award is cool because the people that do the voting are the students, right? So each team gets, a ballot for each participant, and then we, calculate the number of participants on each team. And so for any particular team, they might have gone up against, a team with 7 members, a team with 9 members, a team with 3 members, and a team with 6 members. And And again, you're only sitting 5 at the table, so I don't want to be confusing here. But some teams are larger than the number of 5, and every participant gets a vote. So if my team goes up against 4 teams and potentially they could get 26 votes, then we'll say what percentage of those votes did they receive, right? The team that gets the highest percentage of votes possible, given the number of individual competitors they faced, is the winner of this award. And it's not to be taken lightly, right? The teams that win it, can go home to their university and say, we, as representatives of our university, exemplified this ideal, right, of respectful, rational, civil discourse that, where we engage people, in the most respectful and human of ways. The universities love it. I've had administrators express to me that they're considerably prouder of their team winning that than had they won the competition, which is also a great source of pride. So, it's a real honor to win the Laydenson Award. And so, you can, prepare for that by, learning about Ethics Bowl and doing those things that exemplify it. Okay, so this is really all I wanted to say about the national competition. It's very similar to the regional competition. I'll be back with the final video where we just tie up some loose ends. And I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.